Over the past few months, when not many of us have been able to receive Holy Communion, we've been saying that prayer online, that prayer of spiritual communion, the prayer of St Alphonsus De Liguori. Now, I'd never heard of this saint before, so I thought what I'd do is just do a bit of research, see who he was, and then just share it with you. So this is what I found. Alphonsus Marie Anthony Jean Cosmos Damien Michael Gaspard de Liguori was born on the 27th of November 1696. He was a very intelligent child, and by the time he was 16 he'd already got his doctorate from the University of Naples, and by the time he was 19 years old he was practicing law in and around the city. He was a very bright young man, and his career really took off. By the time he was in his mid-20s, he was living the high life in Naples. He was wining, dining, visiting the theatres, really doing everything that a successful young lawyer would do. He was quite cocky with it though, and this showed in his lifestyle. He was at the top of his profession. But this was all about to change. He took on a high-profile case between the Grand Duke of Tuscany and a Neapolitan nobleman. He went into the case full of bravado, full of confidence, and he made an outstanding opening speech, sitting down fully confident of his victory. But what he didn't realise was that he'd misread one of the documents. This document could undermine all his arguments, and when the opposition brought it out and used it against him, he was amazed, he was dumbfounded, he was shocked. He couldn't believe that he'd missed something so simple. This defeat knocked his confidence, and at that moment he decided that he would never practice law again. Alphonsus saw this defeat as an act of God in order to break his pride, and break his pride it did. After this incident, he turned to God, asking for direction in his life, what he should do, how he should spend the rest of his life. He spent time in prayer. He spent time in visiting the local hospital for incurables, and it's there that he had a vision. He had this vision in the hospital. He said he was surrounded by this mysterious light. The world seemed to shake, and an interior voice said to him, "Leave the world and give yourself to me." So straight away he left. He went to the local church, and went to the statue of Our Lady, and he laid down his sword on the altar, and he made an oath that he would become a priest. When Alphonsus' father found out about this, he wasn't happy. Here he was, his successful son, very intelligent, with a great future as a lawyer, had given up his practice after one defeat. And now he was seeing visions, and he was deciding to give his life to God and become a priest. This was too much for him, and he let his son know it. He battled with Alphonsus for 2 months, but eventually they came to an agreement that he would allow Alphonsus to become a priest as long as he remained living at home. So Alphonsus agreed and then studied for the priesthood. After ordination, he spent 6 years at home, living at home, travelling around Naples, giving successful missions to various groups. He met and befriended an older priest called Father Thomas Falcoye, who would later guide the young Alphonsus De Liguori to his vocation to leave Naples and establish an order of missionaries in Scala. And on the 9th of November 1732, the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer was begun, the order we now call the Redemptorists. The path to God is never a straight path, and the beginnings of the order were troublesome. There was dissensions, infighting, and at one point all the brothers in the order left apart from one. But Alphonsus stood firm, and eventually new companions arrived. St Alphonsus was a great writer and a wonderful orator. He left almost 1,500 letters, filling almost 3 volumes, and many prayers for the faithful to use. And his prayer, of course, is the prayer of spiritual communion. St Alphonsus' prayer of spiritual communion, we could imagine almost being written for this pandemic. It speaks of that desire we have to receive the Lord in Holy Communion at a time when we can't, when most of us can't. Of course, spiritual Holy Communion doesn't replace receiving the Lord in the host and from the chalice. But at these times when we can't receive, it's a great prayer asking God to grant us the graces that we would receive by taking Holy Communion. So let's pray that soon we can all gather again together to receive the Lord at Holy Mass. And I thought I'd just end by praying that prayer of St Alphonsus. It's a prayer that we don't have to wait for Mass to pray. We can pray it 3 or 4 times during the day. I think some of the other saints who prayed this prayer, they would pray it throughout the day just to bring themselves into the presence of Christ spiritually. So let's say the prayer. My Jesus, I believe that you are present in the Blessed Sacrament. I love you above all things, and I desire you in my soul. Since I cannot now receive you sacramentally, come at least spiritually into my heart, as though you are already there. I embrace you and unite myself wholly to you. Do not ever let me be separated from you. Amen.